Commander Alan Wright stood at the observation deck of the space station Celestial Harmony, his eyes fixed on the stars beyond the thick glass. Today was a big day for humans. The first official meeting with the Galactic Council was about to start. "Commander, they're ready for us," said Dr. Lisa Palmer as she approached. Her voice was calm, but Alan could see excitement in her eyes. Alan nodded and straightened his blue uniform. "How do I look?" he asked with a small smile. "Like someone who isn't nervous at all," Lisa replied, though they both knew that wasn't true. Alan had been chosen to lead this mission because of his years of space exploration and his calm under pressure. But nothing in his training had prepared him for representing all of humanity to a room full of alien species. The main council chamber was enormous. The ceiling arched high above them, decorated with symbols from 100 worlds. Beings of all shapes, sizes, and colors sat in a large circle. Some looked almost human. Others were nothing like anything Alan had ever seen before. "The human delegation from Earth," announced a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms. Its voice came through the translation devices in Alan's ear. Alan walked forward with Lisa and the rest of his team. They took their seats at an empty section of the circle. "We welcome Earth to the galactic community," said a being that appeared to be made of shifting, colored light. "I am Counselor Zen, head of the Galactic Council." Alan stood as they had practiced. "On behalf of Earth and all humans, we thank you for this welcome. We are honored to join you and learn from your wisdom." The meeting continued for hours. They discussed trade, technology sharing, and the rules of the Council. Alan noticed a group of crystalline beings watching the humans with special interest. Their bodies sparkled under the lights like walking diamonds. During a break, one of the crystal beings approached. "I am Ambassador Krex of the Zolari. Your species fascinates us. You are so soft." The being's voice had a musical quality that the translator couldn't fully capture. "We're tougher than we look," Alan said with a smile. "Perhaps. But you are new to space. There is much you don't know about the dangers beyond your world." As they talked, Alan noticed a smaller crystal being half hiding behind Krex. The little one was about the size of a human child. "My daughter, Inara," Krex explained, noticing Alan's gaze. "This is her first council meeting, too." Alan knelt down to be at the child's level. "Hello, Inara. I'm Alan." The crystal child moved slightly from behind her father. Her form had softer edges than the adult Zolari, and she glowed with a gentle blue light. "Your face moves strangely," she said, in a tinkling voice. Alan laughed. "That's called smiling. Humans do it when they're happy." "Why are you happy?" Inara asked. "Because I'm meeting new friends," Alan replied. Later, during a science discussion, Alan learned something surprising about most alien species. Lisa was explaining human biology when a reptilian alien interrupted. "You say humans can survive temperatures up to 40 of your degrees Celsius without protection?" the being asked, clearly shocked. "Yes," Lisa confirmed. "And with proper hydration and brief exposure, we can tolerate much higher temperatures." A murmur went through the room. Alan looked confused at their reaction. Ambassador Krex leaned toward him. "Most species in the Council have much lower heat tolerance. Fire and extreme heat are universally feared." "Even with your technology?" Alan asked. "Technology fails," Krex replied simply. "And when it does, biology determines who lives and who dies." As the meeting ended, Alan noticed Inara watching him from across the room. She waved a crystalline hand, and he waved back. He had a feeling that this was just the beginning of a very interesting relationship between humans and the stars. On the way back to their quarters, Frank Miller, the security chief, fell in step beside Alan. "I don't trust those reptile guys," he said quietly. "The Vexar. Did you see how they looked at us?" "We're new here, Frank." "Everyone's looking at us," Alan replied. "Not like that," Frank insisted. "They looked angry." Alan sighed. Even here among the stars, politics and old conflicts seemed to follow. Their job was to make friends, not enemies. But as he looked back at the council chamber, he wondered what ancient stories they were now part of, without even knowing it. Image. Description: a human man in a blue uniform standing in a massive alien council chamber with a high arched ceiling. He's facing a group of crystalline beings that sparkle like diamonds under the lights. In the background are various alien species of different shapes and colors seated in a large circle. A small crystal child is partially hidden behind a taller crystal being, glowing with a gentle blue light. The second day of meetings began with a discussion about environmental dangers across different planets. Alan sat with his team, listening as various alien species described the hazards of their homeworlds. On our planet, the acid rains would dissolve human skin in minutes, said a green, plant-like being. A floating jellyfish creature spoke next. Our oceans contain parasites that can enter through any body opening. When it was Earth's turn, Dr. Lisa Palmer stood up. She showed images of Earth's most extreme environments: deserts, volcanoes, and Arctic regions. Humans have settled in all these places, she explained. We can adapt to temperatures from -40 to +40 degrees Celsius for extended periods. The council chamber filled with surprised whispers. And fire? Asked Ambassador Krex of the Zolari. How do humans handle fire? Lisa showed footage of firefighters entering burning buildings. With proper gear, humans can briefly enter temperatures over 800 degrees. The aliens were visibly shocked. Some even moved back in their seats, even without special equipment. Lisa continued, humans can approach fire more closely than many species. We use fire for cooking, warmth, and ceremonies. After the meeting, several aliens approached to ask Lisa more questions. Alan stepped away to get a drink when he felt someone watching him. He turned to find Inara, the young Zolari child. Hello again, Alan said with a smile. Inara's crystal body shimmered as she moved closer. Is it true? You play with fire? Alan knelt down. We don't play with it. Fire is dangerous for humans too. But yes, we use it more than your people do. Father says one spark could crack our bodies, Inara said. He won't let me see real fire, only pictures. Your father is right to be careful, Alan replied. Different species have different strengths and weaknesses. Ambassador Krex approached, crystal body gleaming under the lights. Inara, don't bother the commander. She's no bother, Alan assured him. Still, we should prepare for the afternoon session. Krex placed a crystalline hand on his daughter's shoulder. Perhaps Commander Wright would join us for evening meal later? We are curious about human customs. Alan accepted the invitation and spent the rest of the day in meetings about trade and technology sharing. Judy Garcia, their communications specialist, helped explain human languages and communication methods to the council. That evening, Alan visited the Zolari quarters. Their rooms were cooler than human comfort levels, and the walls were decorated with intricate crystal formations. We grow these ourselves, Krex explained as they ate. The Zolari food looked like colored stones but dissolved in their bodies somehow. Our scientists are very interested in human biology, Krex said, especially your heat resistance. It's quite remarkable. We're just as fascinated by your people, Alan replied. Your crystal structures are beautiful. Inara, who had been quiet, suddenly asked, Do human children break easily? Krex made a sharp sound. Inara, that's rude. Alan laughed. It's okay. Human children are actually quite resilient. They fall down and get back up all the time. Zolari children must be very careful, Inara said sadly. If we crack, sometimes we don't heal right. After dinner, Alan was walking back to his quarters when Frank Miller caught up with him. Sir, I've been watching the Vexar delegation, Frank said in a low voice. Something's not right. They keep meeting in small groups, then separating when anyone gets close. Maybe that's normal for them, Alan suggested. Frank shook his head. And I overheard two of them talking about the Zolari. Something about ancient debts and perfect timing. Keep an eye on them, Alan ordered. But don't do anything obvious. We're guests here. As they spoke, a tall Vexar with red scales and yellow eyes walked past, staring at them coldly. The reptilian being's forked tongue flicked out briefly before it turned away. Later that night, Alan couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what Frank had said. Outside his window, the stars looked peaceful. But even in space, old conflicts seemed to follow intelligent life. And somewhere on the station, the Vexar were planning something that made Alan very uneasy. Image description: a female human scientist with short hair standing before a council of diverse alien beings, displaying holographic images of Earth's extreme environments and firefighters. In the foreground, a small crystalline child with a blue glow watches with fascination beside her tall, diamond-like crystalline parent. A reptilian alien with red scales and yellow eyes observes from the shadows, forked tongue visible and eyes narrowed with suspicion. The third day on Celestial Harmony began with raised voices. Alan hurried to the council chamber and found Ambassador Krex facing a large Vexar. The reptilian alien towered over the crystalline being, scales flaring with anger. "The Zolari have no right to claim the mining rights on Proxima 6, the Vexar hissed. His name was Sazak, Alan remembered. The treaty was signed 50 years ago. Krex replied calmly, though Alan noticed his crystal form pulsing with bright light, perhaps their version of anger, a treaty signed under false information. Sazak's tail whipped back and forth. Other council members watched nervously. Alan stepped between them. "Perhaps we could discuss this during today's session." Both aliens turned to him. Sazak's yellow eyes narrowed. "This is not human business. Peace on the station concerns everyone," Alan said firmly. Counselor Zen arrived and quickly called the meeting to order. The day's topic was supposed to be medical exchange, but the argument between the Zolari and Vexar took over. "The dispute dates back 300 years, Judy Garcia whispered to Alan as various aliens gave speeches. "The Vexar believe the Zolari stole a planet from them." "Did they?" Alan asked. Judy shrugged. "Depends who you ask." During a break, Alan found Inara alone in a quiet corner. The young Zolari seemed upset. "Are you okay?" Alan asked, sitting beside her. "The Vexar children were mean to me," Inara said. Her crystal body dimmed slightly. "They said Zolari are thieves and should be shattered." Alan felt a surge of protectiveness. "They shouldn't say such things. Father says I must be dignified and ignore them." Inara traced patterns on the floor. "But it's hard." "Sometimes it is," Alan agreed. "On Earth, children can be mean too." "What do human children do?" Alan thought carefully. "Sometimes they talk to adults they trust. Other times they stand up for themselves." "I can't stand up to them. They're bigger, and I might crack." Inara's voice sounded small. Before Alan could reply, Frank Miller approached quickly. "Commander, we have a situation." In a quiet hallway, Frank showed Alan a security recording. "Watch the Vexar delegate here." The video showed Sazak passing something to another reptilian being near the station's environmental control room. "Could be nothing," Alan said. "Maybe," Frank agreed. "But there's more." He showed another clip of Vexar studying station maps. "They're very interested in the station layout." Alan frowned. "Tell station security." "I did," Frank said. "They said without proof of wrongdoing they can't act against council delegates." Alan rubbed his forehead. "Keep watching them. I'll talk to Judy, see if she can pick up anything in their conversations." That evening, the humans hosted a dinner for all species. It was a gesture of goodwill, though cooking for beings with such different biology was challenging. Ambassador Krex and Inara sat with Alan. Across the room, Sazak watched them, tongue flicking occasionally. "The Vexar have not forgotten the great loss," Krex said quietly. 3 centuries ago, their colony world suffered a natural disaster. They blamed us because we discovered the planet first, but abandoned it as unsuitable. "Was it your fault?" Alan asked. "No, we left because our scientists detected instability in the planet's core. We warned the Vexar, but they settled anyway." Krex's voice grew sad. "When the disasters came, they lost thousands. It's easier to blame others than accept a painful truth." As dinner ended, Alan noticed Judy Garcia speaking with a smaller Vexar. She caught his eye and gave a slight nod. She had information. Later, in the human quarters, Judy reported, "The younger Vexar are planning something. They talk about teaching the crystal thieves a lesson and making the humans show their true nature." "What does that mean?" Lisa asked. "I don't know," Judy admitted. "But I heard one phrase clearly. When the station burns." A chill ran through Alan. Fire. Deadly to most aliens, but something humans could potentially survive. "We need to increase security," Alan decided, "and warn Krex." That night, as most of the station slept, Alan couldn't rest. He walked the quiet corridors, thinking. Near the Zolari quarters, he spotted a shadow moving. A Vexar, carrying a small package. Their eyes met briefly before the reptilian being slipped away into the darkness. Image description: a tense confrontation in a futuristic space station. Hallway. A tall reptilian alien with red scales and flared neck frills towers menacingly over a crystalline being that glows with bright internal light. Between them stands a human man in a blue uniform with a determined expression. In the background, a small crystalline child watches from around a corner, her crystal body dimmed with fear. The hallway has curved walls with alien symbols and soft blue lighting that reflects off the crystal being's faceted surface. Alan reported what he saw to station security first thing in the morning. The security chief, a six-armed blue alien, named Zorex, listened with 4 ears and frowned with 2 mouths. "Commander Wright, we cannot search council members' quarters without evidence," Zorex said. "Diplomatic rules protect all delegates." "I understand rules," Alan replied, "but I'm concerned about safety." Zorex waved 2 of his arms. "We will increase patrols. That is all I can do for now." Frustrated, Alan met with his team for breakfast. He told them about the Vexar he'd seen. "They're definitely planning something," Frank said, pushing his food around his plate. Lisa looked worried. "If they're planning to use fire somehow, most species on this station would be defenseless." "We need proof," Alan decided. "Judy, can you get close to any of the younger Vexar? The ones who might talk more freely?" Judy nodded. "I'll try. One of them seems interested in Earth music." As the council meeting began, Alan noticed something odd. Several Vexar delegates were missing, including Czak. When he pointed this out to Krex, the crystal alien seemed troubled. "They rarely miss sessions," Krex said, his voice tinkling with concern. "Especially when mining rights are being discussed. Today." Throughout the morning, strange things happened across the station. The gravity briefly failed in one section. Doors opened and closed randomly in another. The air became unusually warm in the east wing. "These are not normal malfunctions," Frank whispered to Alan during a break. "They're testing the station's systems, seeing how they respond." After lunch, an alarm sounded in the medical bay. Lisa Palmer rushed there with Alan. They found smoke coming from a supply cabinet. It was a small fire, quickly contained, but the alien medical staff were badly shaken. "Even this small amount of heat could have killed someone of many species," the head doctor explained, her tentacles trembling. "If a patient had been nearby." Alan examined the burned cabinet. Behind it, wires had been cut and crossed, deliberately. "This was no accident," he told Frank quietly. That evening, a formal reception was held in the Grand Hall. All species attended in their ceremonial clothes. The humans wore their dress uniforms, while the Zolari adorned their crystal bodies with delicate metal chains that caught the light. The Vexar wore elaborate cloaks that rustled when they moved. Alan watched Czak and his group carefully. They seemed to be checking the time often. Inara found Alan by the refreshment table. She wore tiny bells that chimed gently as she moved. "Commander Alan, Father says we're leaving tomorrow," she said sadly. Alan was surprised. "Leaving? The council meetings run for 2 more weeks. Father is worried. He says it's not safe." Her crystal form dimmed slightly. "I don't want to go. I like learning about humans." Alan knelt down. "I'm sure we'll meet again, Inara." Ambassador Krex approached. "Commander, a word please." They stepped aside, and Krex spoke quietly. Our security team intercepted a message between Vexor delegates. They mentioned purifying flame and tonight. Alan felt a chill. Have you told station security? Yes, but without the actual message, which, self-deleted, they won't act. Krex's crystal body pulsed with worry. I'm taking my daughter home on the first transport tomorrow. As they spoke, Alan noticed a Vexar slip out a side door. Then another. They were leaving the reception early. Something's happening now, Alan said urgently. He activated his communicator. Frank, Judy, Lisa, security alert, meet me at Control Center Alpha. As Alan hurried from the room, he saw Czak watching him with cold yellow eyes. The reptilian being's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. In the corridor, Alan ran into Judy. Commander, I just heard 2 Vexar talking. They said it begins in 10 minutes. They rushed toward the control center, but halfway there, the lights suddenly went out. Emergency lighting came on, casting red shadows everywhere. Then Alan heard it, the station's main computer speaking in all languages at once. Environmental system failure in diplomatic sector. Temperature rising. Warning. Fire suppression offline. Alan's blood ran cold. The diplomatic sector contained the Zolari quarters. Image description. A dimly lit space station corridor, bathed in red emergency lighting. A human man in a blue uniform is running urgently with a concerned expression. Behind him follows a crystalline alien child glowing with blue internal light, looking frightened. In the background, shadowy reptilian figures can be seen slipping away through a doorway. Through a large viewport window, stars are visible against the blackness of space. Control panels along the walls show warning signals and flashing red alerts. Chaos erupted in the diplomatic sector. Alarms blared as aliens of all species rushed to escape. The temperature was rising fast. Alan pushed against the crowd, trying to reach the Zolari quarters. Commander! Frank caught up to him. The fire is spreading through the ventilation system. Someone added chemicals that burn extremely hot. Alan felt the heat growing stronger. Where's Ambassador Krex? Last seen heading to the evacuation pods with other delegates, Frank reported. Alan's communicator crackled. Commander, it's Lisa. I'm at the medical bay. They're preparing for burn victims. Good. Stay there and help, Alan ordered. He turned to Frank. Get to the control room. See if you can override the fire suppression system. Frank hesitated. What about you? I'm going to make sure all the Zolari got out, Alan said. Their quarters are closest to where the fire started. As Frank left, Judy ran up to Alan. Her face was streaked with sweat. Commander, station security is evacuating everyone from this sector. They're going to seal it off in 15 minutes to save the rest of the station. Find Zorex, Alan told her. Tell him we need more time. Judy nodded and disappeared into the crowd. Alan pushed forward against the flow of panicked aliens. The corridor was getting hotter. Ahead, he could see actual flames licking at the walls. No other beings were moving toward the fire. Their instincts and biology wouldn't let them. His communicator crackled again. Alan. It was Ambassador Krex, his voice filled with static. Inara, not with me. She was our quarters, looking for her doll. Alan's heart pounded. I'll find her, he promised. The corridor ahead was now a tunnel of fire. The station's walls, normally fireproof, were covered with some kind of gel that burned with intense heat. Alan pulled his uniform jacket over his head for minimal protection and pressed forward. The heat hit him like a wall. Even with his human tolerance for high temperatures, this was extreme. His skin felt tight and painful. His lungs burned with each breath. Through the flames, he saw the entrance to the Zolari quarters. The door was jammed partially open. Alan squeezed through the gap, feeling the hot metal burn his arm. Inside, the temperature was even worse. The walls glowed red in places. Furniture made from alien materials melted and burned with strange colors. Inara! Alan shouted, coughing as smoke filled his lungs. Inara, where are you? A small sound came from behind a fallen shelf. Alan pushed it aside and found Inara huddled in a corner. Her crystal body showed thin cracks spreading across her surface. She was holding a crystal figure. Her doll. "Commander Allen," she whispered, her voice faint. "It hurts. The heat is breaking me." "I'm getting you out," Allen promised. He tried to pick her up, but his hands were already blistering from the heat. Removing his jacket completely, he wrapped it around Inara, being careful not to put pressure on her cracking form. Then he lifted her as gently as possible. "Hold on to me," he said. The way back was worse. The fire had spread further, eating through the corridor. Allen could barely see through the smoke and flames. His uniform pants were beginning to smolder, at the edges. His exposed skin felt like it was cooking. Inara made a small sound of pain. Looking down, Allen saw more cracks appearing in her crystal form despite the jacket's protection. His communicator buzzed. "Commander," it was Judy. "They're sealing the sector in 3 minutes. You need to get out now." "Almost there," Allen gasped, though he wasn't sure if that was true. The smoke was disorienting him. He stumbled forward, holding Inara close to his chest, using his body to shield her from the worst of the heat. Each step was agony. His lungs screamed for clean air. His vision began to darken at the edges. A wall of flame blocked their path. There was no way around it. Allen looked down at the frightened alien child in his arms. "Close your eyes," he told her, "and hold your breath." Then, with no other choice, Allen ran straight into the flames. The pain was beyond anything he had ever felt. He could smell his own hair burning, feel his skin blistering. But he didn't stop. Couldn't stop. One step. Another. His only thought was getting Inara to safety. Through the fire, Allen could just make out the emergency doors ahead, the ones that would seal off the sector. They were already beginning to close. With the last of his strength, Allen lunged forward, stumbling through the narrowing gap just as the massive doors slammed shut behind him, cutting off the inferno. He fell to his knees in the cooler air, still, cradling Inara protectively against his chest. The last thing he saw before consciousness left him was a crowd of aliens staring in shock, their many different eyes and sensory organs all focused on the impossible sight of a being who had walked through fire and survived. Image description: a human man with singed clothing and burned skin running through a corridor engulfed in flames. His face shows determination and pain as he clutches a small crystalline child wrapped in his jacket against his chest. The crystal child has visible cracks forming across her surface and glows with a fading blue light. Orange and blue flames surround them on all sides, melting parts of the space station walls. In the distance, emergency doors are beginning to close, with a sliver of safety visible beyond them. The scene is dominated by intense orange and red fire contrasting with the blue glow of the alien child. Allen woke to the sound of beeping machines. His body felt like one massive burn. Opening his eyes took great effort. The medical bay ceiling came slowly into focus above him. "He's awake," said Lisa's voice from somewhere nearby. A blue, tentacled face appeared above him. The alien doctor. "Commander Wright, you are very lucky to be alive," she said. "Most beings would have died in those temperatures." Allen tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. Lisa held a cup of water to his lips. After a few sips, he managed to ask, "Inara?" "She's alive," Lisa assured him. "The Zolari have special healing techniques for crystal damage. They're working on her now." Allen relaxed slightly, then winced as the movement pulled at his burned skin. "How bad?" "Second and third degree burns over 40% of your body," Lisa said softly. "Smoke damage to your lungs, but you'll recover. Our doctor and the alien medical teams are working together with treatments." Allen's memories of the fire were hazy. "How long was I out?" 3 days, Frank said, stepping into view. "The diplomatic sector is completely destroyed. They're still investigating how the fire spread so quickly." "The Vexar," Allen whispered. "Did they?" "5 of them have been arrested," Frank confirmed, including Czak. Station security found evidence in their quarters. Chemical accelerants designed to burn at temperatures lethal to Zolari. Allen closed his eyes briefly. They wanted to kill the Zolari delegation. Yes, Lisa said, but they didn't expect a human to run into the fire. No species on the station could have survived what you did. A small commotion at the door made them turn. Ambassador Krex entered, his crystal form shimmering with subdued light. "Commander Wright," he said, approaching Alan's bed. "I have no words adequate to thank you." Alan tried to smile, though his face hurt. "Is Inara okay?" "She will recover fully," Krex said. "The cracks were severe but not beyond our ability to heal. Without your protection, she would have shattered completely." The ambassador's voice contained emotion Alan had never heard from a Zolari before. "Anyone would have done the same," Alan said weakly. Krex made a sound like crystal bells chiming. "No. No other species could have done what you did. The Council has been in emergency session since the fire. What you did has changed things." Before Alan could ask what he meant, the door opened again. Counselor Zen entered, their light-form body glowing brightly. "Commander Wright," Zen said, formally. "The Galactic Council wishes to express our deepest gratitude for your heroic actions." Alan tried to sit up but couldn't manage it. Lisa helped adjust his bed instead. "The Vexar conspirators have confessed," Zen continued. "They planned to destroy the Zolari delegation and blame it on station malfunction. They did not account for human physiology or human courage." Frank stepped forward. "What will happen to them?" "Justice will be served," Zen said simply. "But more importantly, this event has shown us something profound about your species." The counselor moved closer to Alan's bed. "For generations, most species in the galaxy have seen fire as death itself. We built technology to control it, but in our hearts we feared it. Then a human walked through flames that would kill any of us instantly, not for power or advantage, but to save a child not even of his own kind." The room was silent for a moment. "The Council has voted," Zen announced. "Earth will be granted full membership immediately, not the probationary status we originally planned. Furthermore, we request human assistance in designing new fire safety protocols for all Council facilities." Alan was too surprised to speak. Ambassador Krex approached his bedside. "My daughter asks to see you when you are stronger," he said. "She calls you her flame walker, an ancient term of honor in our culture." As the visitors left to let Alan rest, he caught Frank's eye. "Looks like we made quite an impression," Frank said with a small smile. Alan nodded slightly. "Not exactly how I planned our first diplomatic mission, but effective," Lisa added. "They respect us now, not just for our technology or knowledge, but for who we are." As sleep began to claim him again, Alan thought about Inara. The fear in her crystal eyes when he found her, and the trust when he promised to get her out. Some things were universal, it seemed. Over the next 2 weeks, Alan slowly recovered. His burned skin healed with help from both human medicine and alien treatments. Each day he grew stronger, though the doctor said some scars would remain forever. Visitors came regularly. Frank and Judy brought news of the station repairs. Lisa worked closely with the alien medical teams, learning their healing methods while sharing human medical knowledge. One afternoon, there was a gentle knock on Alan's door. It slid open to reveal Inara, her crystal form now smooth and whole again, glowing with healthy blue light. "Commander Alan," she said softly. "May I come in?" Alan smiled and gestured to the chair beside his bed. "I'm glad to see you looking better." Inara approached carefully. "Father says I should not stay long. You need rest." She paused, looking at his bandaged arms. "Does it still hurt very much?" "Less each day," Alan assured her. The crystal child seemed to gather her courage. "I made something for you." She held out a small object wrapped in soft fabric. Alan unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a beautiful crystal sculpture, about the size of his palm. It showed 2 figures, one clearly human, carrying a smaller crystalline form through stylized flames. "It's beautiful," Alan said, genuinely touched. "Father helped with The shaping, Inara explained. But I chose the memory crystal, it's very special. She pointed to the base. When light shines through it a certain way, the flames move. Alan held it up, watching rainbow patterns dance across his bed. Thank you, Inara. I'll treasure it. The young Zolari's form brightened with happiness. The other children don't call me names anymore. They ask about you. Everyone talks about the human who walked through fire. After Inara left, Alan had another visitor, Counselor Zen. The light being seemed even brighter than usual. Commander Wright, I bring news, Zen said. The evidence against the Vexar conspirators was presented to their home government. They have formally apologized to both the Zolari and to Earth. That's good to hear, Alan said. There is more, Zen continued. The Council has created a new position, Human Fire Safety Advisor. We would like you to consider taking this role when you have recovered. Alan was surprised. Me? But I'm not a fire expert. You are something more valuable, Zen replied. You are living proof that fire can be faced and overcome. Many species have lived in fear for too long. With human help, we can develop better ways to protect all beings. After Zen left, Alan thought about the offer. It wasn't what he had expected when he came to the Celestial Harmony Station, but perhaps it was where he could do the most good. Later, that day, his team gathered in his room. They celebrated the good news and discussed the future. The Vexar government has replaced their entire delegation, Frank reported. The new ambassador actually came to apologize personally. And the Solari are being treated with more respect now, Judy added. Krex told me that old conflicts are being reconsidered. Lisa smiled at Alan. Your actions changed more than just fire safety protocols. I just did what anyone would do, Alan insisted. That's just it, Lisa said. To us, running into a fire to save a child seems natural, difficult and dangerous, but something many humans would try. To them it was impossible until they saw it happen. That evening, alone in his room, Alan asked the computer to show him the sealed-off diplomatic sector. The screen displayed images of the damage, melted walls, destroyed rooms, blackened corridors. The fire had been unnaturally hot and destructive, yet he had walked through it and survived. Not unharmed, but alive. His door chimed again. This time, it was Ambassador Krex. Commander, I hope I am not disturbing you, the crystal being said. Not at all, Alan replied. Krex approached the bed. Tomorrow, our delegation returns home to report to our government. Before we leave, there is a matter of great importance. He paused. In our culture, saving a life creates a bond stronger than family. You saved my daughter at great cost to yourself. The ambassador's crystal form pulsed with rainbow colors. The Council of Zolar has granted you an honor never before given to an off-worlder. You have been named clan kin to all Zolari. Alan was speechless. Krex placed a small crystal on the table beside him. If you ever come to Zolar, this will mark you as one who belongs among us. All doors will open to you. The ambassador's voice softened. And my home will always welcome the one who walked through fire for my child. Image description. A hospital room on a space station with large windows showing stars and space outside. An injured human man with healing burns on his face and arms sits propped up in a medical bed surrounded by advanced technology. He's holding up a small, intricate crystal sculpture that catches the light, creating rainbow patterns across the room. Standing beside him is a small crystalline alien child, glowing with blue light, and a taller crystalline adult with multicolored light pulsing through its transparent body. The human is looking at the sculpture with wonder while the crystalline beings watch with what appears to be gratitude and respect in their posture. Medical equipment with softly blinking lights surrounds the bed, and get-well messages from various alien species can be seen on displays around the room. 6 months later, Alan stood in the newly rebuilt diplomatic sector of Celestial Harmony Station. The walls gleamed with fresh paint and new materials, but the biggest changes weren't visible to the eye. Commander Wright, welcome to the demonstration, said Zorex, the security chief. His 6 arms gestured proudly at the redesigned corridor. Alan walked along, noticing the subtle differences. Show me how it works now. Zorex pressed a control panel. Fire containment test beginning in 3, 2, 1. A section of the corridor suddenly filled with simulated flames, actually harmless light projections. Immediately, hidden panels in the walls slid open. A thick foam sprayed out, covering the fire completely. Within seconds, the foam hardened into a shell, cutting off oxygen. Impressive, Alan said. And safe for all species to use? Yes, Zorex confirmed. The foam is cool to touch, non-toxic, and disperses harmlessly after use. Designed by the human Zolari joint engineering team. Alan smiled. In the months since the fire, he had worked closely with engineers from Earth and many alien species. His new role as fire safety advisor kept him busy but fulfilled. After the demonstration, Alan returned to his new office. The room had views of both the station interior and the stars outside. On his desk sat Inara's crystal sculpture, catching the light beautifully. His computer chimed with an incoming message. Lisa's face appeared on the screen. Alan, just checking in before we head back to Earth, she said. The medical exchange program is officially approved. 20 alien doctors will visit Earth next month, and 15 human doctors will train on different council worlds. That's wonderful news, Alan said. How's Frank doing with the security team? Lisa smiled. Teaching the station guards how to handle emergencies the human way. Judy says the new translation protocols are working perfectly too. After they talked, Alan reviewed plans for the next council meeting. Earth now had permanent representatives on the station, but Alan had been asked to attend personally. As he worked, there was a knock at his door. Come in, he called. A Vexer entered. Not one of the conspirators, but their replacement ambassador. The reptilian being stood respectfully at a distance. Commander Wright, forgive the interruption, she said. Her name was Vela, and she had worked hard to repair relations between her people and others. Not at all, Ambassador, Alan replied. What can I do for you? The first Vexar students will arrive tomorrow for fire safety training, Vela said. My people have lived in fear for so long, we never learned to properly manage fire. I wanted to thank you personally for this opportunity. After Vela left, Alan took a moment to look out at the stars. So much had changed in 6 months. What had begun as a simple diplomatic mission had turned into something far more important, a fundamental shift in how different species viewed each other. That evening, Alan attended a small ceremony in the main council chamber. The room was filled with representatives from dozens of worlds. At the center stood a new monument, a simple flame burning steadily inside a clear protective case. Councillor Zen addressed the gathering. This eternal flame represents our new understanding. What was once only feared can now be respected, understood, and safely managed. It burns as a reminder of courage that transcends biological differences. After the ceremony, Alan found a message waiting for him. Opening it, he saw Inara's face projected as a small hologram. She had grown slightly, her crystal form now showing more complex patterns. Flamewalker. Alan, Father says we will visit the station next month. I have so much to tell you about my school. The other children want to meet the human hero. She moved, closer to the recorder, her voice dropping to a whisper. I told them you don't think of yourself as a hero. You just did what was right. But they don't understand yet. Maybe someday they will. As the message ended, Alan looked again at the crystal sculpture on his desk, the figures frozen in that moment, a human carrying an alien child through fire. He thought about how a single action, born from simple human instinct, had changed the course of relations between worlds. No grand plans or complex negotiations, just the universal impulse to protect a child in danger. Perhaps that was the best of humanity to share with the stars, not just our technology or our knowledge, but our heart. Image descript.